है जब हम एक फैक्टर फिक्स्ड रखते हैं, ठीक है, जब हम एक फैक्टर को फिक्स्ड रखते हैं और दूसरे फैक्टर को, अगर दो फैक्टर हम लेंगे उसमें से एक फैक्टर को, जैसे हमने मशीन या कैपिटल और लेबर लिया था, उसमें हमने कैपिटल को फिक्स किया था और लेबर को वेरी किया था, उसमें हमने वेरिएबल प्रोपोर्शन बनता था दो फैक्टर्स के दरमियान, और जिसमें लॉ ऑफ वेरिएबल प्रोपोर्शन हमें मिलता था। लेकिन ये शॉर्ट रन में एप्लीकेबल है। लॉन्ग रन में क्या होता है, लॉन्ग रन में हम सारे फैक्टर्स को वेरी करते हैं, फिक्स्ड फैक्टर रहता ही नहीं कोई, सब फैक्टर हम वेरी करते हैं, ठीक है। तो उसमें एक कॉन्सेप्ट है जिसको कहते हैं हम रिटर्न्स टू स्केल। ये जो फैक्टर्स हैं, सारे इनपुट फैक्टर्स हैं, ये हम वेरी कर सकते हैं बाय सेम प्रोपोर्शन और बाय डिफरेंट प्रोपोर्शन। अगर हम इसको सेम प्रोपोर्शन में वेरी करते हैं, सेम प्रोपोर्शन में, जैसे हमने दोनों फैक्टर्स को डबल किया या दोनों फैक्टर्स को हाफ किया, ठीक है, इफ यू डबल बोथ द फैक्टर्स, इफ यू हाफ द फोर्थ फैक्टर्स, देन व्हाट विल हैपन टू द प्रोडक्शन, ठीक है। अगर प्रोडक्शन भी सेम प्रोपोर्शन से इंक्रीज हो गई, ठीक है, इसको कहते हैं स्केलिंग अप ऑफ फैक्टर्स, इनपुट फैक्टर्स ऑफ प्रोडक्शन को स्केल अप करना इसको कहते हैं, या बाय कांस्टेंट प्रोपोर्शन से हम इंक्रीज करते हैं फैक्टर ऑफ प्रोडक्शन को, उसको ही कहते हैं स्केलिंग अप करना फैक्टर्स ऑफ प्रोडक्शन को। अगर प्रोडक्शन जो आउटपुट है वो भी सेम प्रोपोर्शन से इंक्रीज हुआ, आउटपुट भी बाय सेम प्रोपोर्शन, ठीक है, तब उसको कहेंगे हम सीआरएस, तब हम उसको कहेंगे कांस्टेंट रिटर्न्स टू स्केल। अगर आउटपुट ज्यादा इंक्रीज हुआ बाय मोर देन व्हाट वी हैव इंक्रीज्ड द इनपुट फैक्टर्स, इफ वी suppose if we increase input factors by some proportion, if output gets doubled by more than that proportion, then that we will call it increasing return to scale, increasing return to scale. And if output increased by less proportion than what we have, than the proportion we have increased the input factors, then that we will call it DRS, decreasing returns to scale. If we double, for example, if we double both the inputs, and if output gets doubled by the same proportion, if output also gets doubled, then we will have CRS, constant return to scale. If output is increased by more, if output is more than doubled, then we will have IRS, and if output is less than doubled, then we will have DRS. Hope you have understood this. Where I have left the duster, excuse me. Okay, if we have production function Q equal to f of x1 x2, if we increase both the inputs x1 and x2, x1 is amount of input, one input, if we have only two inputs, and we have to vary all inputs, and it is the case of long run only. So amount of one input x1 and x2 is amount of other input, Q is output. If we increase both x1 and x2 by t times, t must be if we increase both Q x1 and x2 by t times, t must be greater than 1. Then if in that case, what will be the output? Output will be Q1 f of tx1 comma tx2, because we have increased both inputs t times. And if this output is equal to this, for example, if f of tx1 tx2 is equal to f of x1 x2, then this is CRS. And if it is greater than, this output is greater than f of x1 and x2, means the previous output. If it is greater than previous output, then we will have IRS, increasing returns to scale. And if it is less than this previous output, then we will have DRS, decreasing returns to scale. This is mathematical actually. This is mathematical explanation of this returns to scale. There is a production function called Cobb-Douglas production function, which also explains this returns to scale. We will study that production function, Cobb-Douglas production function. Cobb-Douglas production function. This is a simple production function. Q, output, quantity of output, it's equal to x1 power alpha multiplied by x2 power beta. This is Cobb-Douglas production function, and we will use this production function to explain returns to scale. For example, if we increase, this is amount of input 1, if we use just 2 inputs, and this is amount of input 2, x2, and this is output. So if we increase input by t times, both inputs, what will be the new production function? That will be q1 t times x1 raised to power alpha multiplied by t times x2 raised to power beta. So q1 will be t raised to power alpha x1 raised to power alpha multiplied by t raised to power beta x2 raised to power beta. This is simple mathematics and nothing else. So here you can see these bases t and t are same, and we can add the powers. So multiplication of t alpha and t beta will be t raised to power alpha plus beta, and this is x1 alpha and multiplied by x2 beta. These are these two terms, x1 alpha and x2 beta. This is the output when we have increased both inputs by t times. Now the three cases arise. If this alpha plus beta, these two are constants actually, alpha and beta, these are constants actually. If this is equal to, the sum of these constants alpha and beta is equal to 1, then we will have q1, the output, after we have increased both inputs by t times, will be q1 will be t times x1 alpha multiplied by x2 beta. So this q1 will be equal to x1 t times x1 alpha x2 beta. This q1 will be equal to t times x1 alpha into x2 beta. That is q1. So output is equal to t times the previous output. So when we have increased these two inputs by t times, output will be increased by t times only when alpha plus beta is equal to 1. So this means we will have CRS, constant returns to scale. Means we will have the output will be increased by the same proportion as the proportion we have increased as the proportion we have increased these inputs t times. Output has increased by t times only. And if this alpha plus beta is greater than 1, then we will have IRS. Means output has increased more than t times. And if we have alpha plus beta less than 1, we will have DRS, decreasing returns to scale. Means output will be increased by less proportion than we have increased the inputs, than the proportion we have increased the inputs. So this is Cobb-Douglas production function, and using this production function we have explained this returns to scale, and this is applicable only in the long run, when all factors of input, factors of production can be changed, and this is not applicable in the short run. So this is कॉप डॉगलस प्रोडक्शन. होप ये लेक्चर आपको समझ आया होगा. ठीक है, लेक्चर आपको अगर आपको समझ नहीं आएगा तो लेक्चर को फिर से देख लीजिएगा, वो आपको समझ आएगा. टेक केयर, बाय एंड कीप गोइंग, कीप लर्निंग.